This is Arleton LaPierre. I am interviewing Hazel Giles in her home, which was her parents' home. The date is February 18th, 1987. I'm Hazel Giles, Hope, and I was born in Greensboro Bend, July 12, 1897, at the home place, which was the hardware store in Greensboro Bend. My parents were Mr. and Mrs. James Poe. My father was born in England and came over here as a little boy. Here we go. I went to school here at the Bend until I was just a young girl, and then I went to Baton to school with Helen and Edith McFarland, my cousins. And there I studied in the grades and I went there 1 year. And I was homesick, so they changed and sent me to St. Johnsbury. And I stayed there only a short time. 2 weeks with one aunt, and 2 weeks with another one that lived there. Then Mrs. Daniels thought I would be happier to go to school down in Morrisville, where their sons went, because the lady there had a lot of young people that she boarded and roomed. So I went to Morrisville. In the 8th and 9th grades. At that time we had 9 grades, not just 7 and 8. And then I finished the 4 years at the Old People's Academy and graduated in 1917. Then I came home, and the next fall, I went to Lowell, Massachusetts, to a business college. I graduated from there as a teacher, and I taught in Concord, New Hampshire, in a business college. What was the name of the college? Do you remember?
I don't know.
You don't remember.
Then from there, I went to Watertown, New York, and taught there in a business college.
Do you remember the name of that one?
No. Can't even remember how many years I was there. Then I decided that it would be more fun to teach in a high school than a college, because the college people were always older, some of them older than I was myself. So I came back here, and I went to Hardwick Academy in Hardwick. And I stayed there from September until December, living with my parents. They were going to Florida.
What year was that, Hazel? Do you remember that?
I don't even remember that. They were going to Florida, so I asked if I could leave, if they could find someone to take my place. And so I could go to Florida with my father and mother, which I did. And we was in Tampa, Florida for the winter. Then the next fall, I went to In the next fall,
I went to Lebanon, New Hampshire. Got a position there in the high school business education, and I was taught there for 3 years. And that is where I met my husband, and we were married, and came back here as my father wanted us to go into business with him, the hardware store. Consequently, we worked with the store with them. They moved across the street into the house where my grandfather and grandmother lived, and we lived upstairs over the store. And my son Graydon was born there, and we stayed there many years.
And then you were speaking about the running the store and doing the tinsmithing work.
Mm-hmm. That's on there, isn't it?
It's on now. We want to get that now.
You want to get it now?
Yeah.
Well, we run the store. Well, they said Tom Hoskins was in the workshop. We run the hardware store about 35 to 40 years. With Tom Hoskins in the shop where he made the tin pans, dippers, and different things like that, and the sugar tools. And in the store we sold hardware, crockery, furniture.
Tom actually had to cut out the parts and solder them together.
Yeah, oh yeah, he had to got the tin, and he did all the cutting, and we had machines out there that did different things, you know, to that, and then he soldered them and got them placed and put them on the shelf in the store. And always had a lot of tin things that you sold in the store, as well as crockery and the other things, you know. Yeah.
What about the businesses in town?
Then beside us was another building of the Davises grocery store. It was run by George Davis and his son Warner, which run for many years. Then we had the railroad station, which was always very busy above us. And going above that, way back, there was a big store up where the post office is now, which was called Salmon Store. And the post office was in that store. And then they had groceries, and Mrs. Salmon had a little store of ladies' furnishings and a millinery shop. Then above that we had Collins's store.
The milliner shop was separate from the big store?
No, it's all in the same
All
building.
in the same building.
All in the same building. Post office on the right, the groceries there, right where that is, and then the left-hand side was the ladies' clothing and different things like that, and in the back was a millinery shop where people made their own hats. Again, in our store, in the back part at one time, my mother had a millinery shop. She made hats over there. And going beyond Salmon Store, there was Collins's store, but that was later. In the Salmon Store, which was way back, they had a hall upstairs that they used to have dances in. Then that building burned. And then they built a little building there that was rented to a man and lady that worked in the creamery. During the time that the Davises had their grocery store, they built another building just before you come to the tracks that they rented. And at one time there was a bakery there, and Irving Bullard did the baking. And the front part was like a store where you could go there and buy food, and that was run by Mary Barber.
Oh.
Then later on in years, they built a creamery there, which ran for a few years. Then there was a station, and then at one time, a building beyond the station on the left-hand side, there was a creamery there. Then we go back up to Salmon's store, and that burned, and they put another small building there. And that man worked in the creamery down below. Then that goes up. After that burned, then the Collins store, which is still there now, he took on the same thing as the Salmon store. The post office and the groceries in that store. Then the feed store was across the street from that. I've forgotten who run it. I should know.
Amsden ran it the first I remember.
Who?
Amsden?
I guess it was the Amstons.
Were they
The Amstons lived up the street a little ways where we're going now. They lived on the right-hand side. Then on the left side, on the right-hand side, you go up a little further and there's the Methodist Church. It's been there for many years. Then across from the Methodist Church, there was a big hotel where they had horses and sleighs and wagons that they rented to people because we didn't have cars at that time. And then across from that, on the opposite side, a little bit further up, there was another great big building. All the buildings were just about the same size, just great big buildings.
Yeah.
And they had a dance hall and a stage where they had plays. And at one time we had movies there. And I played the piano and Irving Bullard the drums. But you couldn't, they weren't talking. You just had to guess what was going on. And there was a nice dining room downstairs where they had suppers and different things, different meetings in there. And then they had a place where they repaired leather harnesses and things for horses because everybody had horses.
Regular harness shop.
And then across was the mill, a small one, not like we've got now. They had a little mill there. Just that's it.
There was the blacksmith shop.
I forget the blacksmith shop on that left-hand side, just above the feed store.
You probably didn't spend much time there the way the men did.
No, the blacksmith shop, that's right. Of course, they had to have that because they had horses.
Yeah.
They had a lot of horses and sleighs.
How many people in town kept cows at that time? Were there many?
Kept cows?
Yeah. I know some people did.
I don't know. I have the least idea.
I wondered if there were many. I know Will McDonald kept cows, and
Yeah?
I wondered if there were many others.
I don't know. Don't remember where we got the milk. See, now the house down below there, the house down below the Pope store was a lawyer that lived there. So they could have, but they might have had cows. Charlie Sternberg lived in the house down below. After they built the new school down here, Charlie Sternberg lived down there. I don't know whether they had cows or not. Can't seem to think, but some of them must have. I don't remember.
You spoke about the different trains coming through.
The trains, there was many trains a day. There was 4 that carried passengers. One down in the morning, around 8, from St. John's Road down, and that came back around 11 at noon. Then we had one that went down about that time and came back at night. Oh, you went to St. Johnsbury on the 11 o'clock one, and you could come back on the 5 o'clock one.
Oh.
The one went back down at 5, and then another one would come back up in the evening at 8 o'clock. So you had 2 going down and 2 coming back, so you could go to those towns and shop and get back home.
You know, you could go either direction then.
In either direction. And then, of course, freight trains, a lot of freight trains in between. And everybody that, all the stores, of course, had freight. And they had to go to the station to get the freight themselves. And the station was run by Morris Hoyt, which lived down here below our store.
That big hall that you spoke of across from the old hotel, was that about where Smith's store is now?
The hall what?
The big hall that was across from the hotel, where was that located?
It's where Smith's store is now.
No, where Smith's store is now.
Yeah, where Smith's store is now. I'll have to look up some pictures. I got some pictures of it. Yeah, that's where they had. That's where I played to the movies. That's where they had movies. I played up there at the movies. Yeah.
Did they have any amateur plays? You spoke about dances. They had dances.
The plays were something that people would put on themselves, you know, around here.
Oh.
For a certain organization or something like that. And of course, they had different organizations and things like that. They'd have meetings there in that dining room and things like that. They used it as a place to use for things like that.
What about town government?
I don't know much about that. What do you mean?
Well, what about town meetings or?
Well, the town meetings was up to Greensboro, of course. Every year. And we had to go from here up there, of course, to town meetings. And they used to come down here. I don't think there were certain ones that always went. Certain ones that always went and had quite a lot to do with town meeting. The younger people always seemed to be. Dick Thompson was the town meeting every year, and anything was suggested, he was always the first one that got up and spoke. Dick Thompson. Remember that?
Yeah.
I always used to go.
Well, there were several from town that were in town office up there, weren't there?
Oh yes.
One time
Uncle George Davis was one that always was in quite a lot. And then of course Warner had been. Used to be quite a lot of people down here that was at one time. In fact, I've been up there to something, I don't know, I've been to something, I don't know, just more like the cemetery thing, I guess, that I was in a long time, used to go up there. Yeah. Of course, they didn't have a high school there when I went to school. But my son went to Greensboro High School, graduated from the Greensboro High School. When I went to to school down to Morrisville. Because there was no high school in Greensboro. And Mr. Willie, what was his name? Used to run the store.
Well, Bert or Robert?
Robert Willie. Went to high school down at People's Academy same time I did.
Oh.
Yeah, he was going down there because they didn't have any high school at Greensboro. Remember that.
I should know what year they built the high school, but I'm not just sure.
No, I'm not sure. But I know Graydon went to that high school. Yeah.
You know what year he graduated there?
Nope, can't remember. Isn't that awful? No, remember. Look at all those pictures. Mrs. Eston used to teach down here a lot. Well, you probably remember Mrs. Eston. No, I don't remember what year he graduated. Or who he graduated with. Somewhere along, he went to school with Willie's daughter.
Oh.
Who, you know what I mean?
Phyllis?
Yeah, Phyllis. Yeah, they went to school together. I know, Madeline Gebbe's husband was a junior and Graydon was a senior.
Oh.
Gebbe's. I do know that. I know Lewis was going to school. I got his picture and some other. Lewis Hill was going to school at the same time as Graydon was going to school.
That should have been about the early 40s then, shouldn't it?
Early 40s. That's why I can't think. I should have looked a lot of dates up when you get down here.
Well, it isn't that important. You were talking about the businesses in town. Well, there must have been quite a lot of cattle dealing around here, wasn't there?
Cattle?
Yes. I think they had did they have a stockyard or a loading pen or something down the track at one time?
Probably it was on that side track that goes up back of those, where that potato house was. Used to be a potato house over there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody up to Greensboro has the use of that now. Warren Hill, isn't it?
Warren Hill.
Warren Hill has that now. They used to be potato houses. Well, of course, another thing we had, I mentioned it once about the mill way up.
Mm-hmm.
And our trains used to go up by that back of the feed store and way up so to get lumber, you see, to bring down. To get it back on the trains to send it different places.
Of course, that's all gone now.
That's all gone, yeah. No track going up there now. Feed store's still there.
Well, there used to be some sheds of some kind along there before they put the potato houses in too. At one time, I think
It was a creamery.
there was a blacksmith shop there.
I don't remember that. The blacksmith shop is way up the other side of the feed store.
Yeah, but didn't after that one closed? Didn't was it a courier?
I don't remember that.
And then Barrington's had
had a grain storage there too, didn't they, on that spur?
Don't remember that. See, I was gone an awful lot there for a certain length of time.
Oh, might have been during that
See,
time.
I was gone. I wasn't home too much from the time I got out of, till I got married and come back here. You see, all those years I was gone.
Mhm.
Yeah, a long time.
Well, probably that's the space in there then, because I keep thinking
Yeah,
about
that's
this.
changed an awful lot. There's been different things in there, buildings and different people, then it closed in and it's something else.
Mhm.
I do remember the creamery just above the station. They had a creamery there at one time.
Yeah.
And that closed down and the creamery come on the other side.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then everybody got automobiles.
Yeah, what about the first automobiles in town?
What about them?
Yeah.
Well, those three those are the first ones that I remembered. And then people begun to have cars, you know. And they was quite different from today. You could get into the seats, but there was no door. There was no door on the front ones. There'd be a door where you'd get in the back seat, but there wouldn't be any door on the front. Oh. I've got a picture of my first car. It looks all out of style the way they have them now.
I imagine so.
Huh?
I imagine they do. Yeah. What can you tell us about the train wreck, Hazel?
The train wreck happened May 5th, 1944. Morris White was the station agent, and there was the freight train that had just come into town from St. Johnsbury. And he released it for some reason. I don't know why, by mistake. And he just released the train to go when he realized there was a train coming up from below. And he started to run down the track to try to stop the train, but he couldn't make it. Consequently, they come head on, about halfway between here and East Hadrick. And the engineer of the engine going from here down was killed. It was a terrible accident.
Did it take quite a while to clean it up?
Yes, it must have. It must have taken, I don't remember that. It must have taken quite a long time. The engines, of course, were both ruined. I don't know what it did to too many of the other cars. It's told here somewhere something about milk being sent from the creamery in East Hadrick. So one car was full of milk. One car was full of milk. It was coming up from the Hadrick area. And of course, it broke those cans, and the ditch was full of milk. I don't know how long it took to clean it up, but it was a terrible thing. See the milk in the ditch?
Oh, yes.
See the white in the back, there's condensed milk that was out of just the car on number 38.
It was a pretty busy station there at one time anyway, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a very busy station. And this was a place between larger towns. And we had a large coal shed on the one side of the station where all the engines had to be loaded with coal. And then on the left-hand side of the station was the water tank where they got the water. So all the cars and station engines had to go from one place to another and one track to another to get filled up before they could go on. Gus Daniels was the one that did the coal shed. And then after trains was running differently, the coal shed was torn down. And the tank was taken down too. But it made we had so many side tracks that trains could go on, you know, it made a very busy place here with trains.
Did they turn many trains around here? They had the Y so they could. I wondered if they did turn many around.
Well, yes, they did. Not so many, but they still turn them around. We still have the tracks today, and they'll come over here, especially when they're having these rides and different things. And they will come here so far, and then they'll go over on another track, and the engine will back, you know, and they turn the engines around so they can go back home. They do that even now. Our station is still there, but not being used for anything. And it should be.
Yeah, it should be.
It should be something done about it and used it for something. It's a nice building. We try to keep the towns just had to put a new window in because you know how when things are closed up, kids will break windows. And they broke the window, so we just had new glass put in. Yeah, the train. This town has changed a lot.
It has changed a lot.
And then, of course, everybody from the village came down to go on. They used to come down, I've forgotten that man's name, he used to come down every day to bring people down to the train and take people from the train back up to Greensboro.
Sam Ladd?
Yeah, Sam Ladd. Mm-hmm.
Didn't they used to have to come down and didn't the postmaster used to have to come down and get his mail from the train?
I don't know. Did Sam Ladd pick up I don't know whether Sam Ladd picked up the mail or not. I really don't know about that.
Well, I can remember, of course, that, well, I guess that Herb Dunbar used to meet the train and take the mail for Greensboro.
I imagine they did. Imagine they come down. Oh, you mean for our post office?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I should imagine they had to come down to get the mail.
Almost seems to me that Irvin Bullard used to have a little handcart that he came down and picked the mail up.
I guess he did. And picked the mail up to take up the post office.
I was thinking so.
Yeah, without a doubt. And somebody had to come down and get the mail. It goes back up to Greensboro Village.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how they got by in the wintertime. They didn't have plows like they have now.
What about the wintertime in Greensboro Bend years ago?
Well, they had a roller, a great big roller made out of wood, and a seat up high on it, and they used to drive it with horses and just simply flatten the snow down. They rolled it through the roads. It was as wide as the road. They'd go through town and flatten the snow down, and you didn't have cars going at that time, and you had horses and sleighs and rode on top of it, I guess.
Do you remember who did the rolling? Have you any idea?
No. Whoever worked up to Greensboro did that.
Oh, the roller came down from Greensboro to do it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Just like the plows are today. I don't know where they come from. We got a plow, but I don't know where they keep them. Don't they keep them up the village somewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where.